Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome to the class of fractions. Now let's try to understand what we are going to learn today. Okay, so today we are going to talk about fractions. We are going to talk about components of fractions, and we are also going to talk about proper fractions. Fractions, the word looks very complicated, yeah, but then it's very simple because you as students of class 3, you've been using the word fractions, or you are very familiar with the word fractions in your very day-to-day life, just that you don't know that it's a fraction. That's how simple it is. Let me give you a quick example. For example, let's talk about, for example, let's say you have your glass of milk every day. Okay, your mom gives you milk early in the morning, and your mom asks you, hey, how much have you completed? You say, Mom, I'm just done with half of the glass. So what do you say? You say half of the glass. So that's a fraction, okay? Or you talk about your classroom environment. You have your teachers who use chalk pieces. So let's say you have picked up a chalk piece from your teacher's desk, and your friend says, hey, can you give me a part of it? So you break it into 2 equal pieces, and you say, hey, this is for you and this is for me. So again, you have divided that as 1 chalk piece by 2 of you. So that's again a fraction. See how simple that is. So you have pretty much used, and you are very much familiar with the word fraction, just that the word was something which is very new for you. So without delaying much, as we're all excited to know what more fractions is all about. So let's get into the class and try to understand what is a fraction, what are the various components of a fraction, and what is a proper fraction. All right? So let's move on. Let me also give you something which is very, very interesting. I know you all like pizzas, right? So each one of you would have gone to a Pizza Hut along with your family. You would have asked your dad. You would have cried for a Pizza Hut. You would have cried to go to a Domino's pizza. Not very good, okay? But still, you all love pizza for the taste of it, okay? So that's a yummy pizza right in front of you on your board. So this pizza, as you see, the very first moment the waiter gets you the pizza, you pick up a part of it, okay? So that's what we are talking about. You pick a part of a whole pizza, okay? So let me just give you a brief of what we are talking about. So you give you a part of a whole pizza, right? So you take a part of it and you give the rest half for your brother. You give a part of it for your sister, and that's how you share the whole pizza among the family, right? Okay. Let's also see what else do we share, or where else do we see a fraction coming up, okay? Now, let's talk about a lunchbox, okay? So you guys are pretty much into your 3rd standard right now, okay? And you carry your lunchbox every day to the school. So your mom packs very good, yummy lunch for you into 3 different boxes, okay? And your mom prepares this, and she makes good lunch for you, and she prepares yummy dal at the bottom, and then she puts in yummy rice in the middle of it, and then she puts in some very good curry at the top, okay? So she has divided your entire lunch into 3 different food or 3 different dishes. One being a curry, one being a rice, one being a dal. So as soon as you complete the curry, for example, and if a friend of you comes to you and says, hey, how many boxes did you complete? You tell him that I have completed 1 box out of 3 boxes. Okay? So that's another fraction. Okay? Now, let's also try to see a beautiful example here. You have a lot of best friends, okay? So let's assume you have 3 very, very good friends, okay, whom you want to play with, whom you want to every day have a chat with, okay? So these 3 best friends came along with you to a party, okay? And one of him joined with you for a dinner that night, okay? And when somebody else asks you, hey, who is this along with you? You tell him, he is one of my 3 best friends, okay? So that's how you tell him, he's one of my 3 best friends. So you have been using the word fraction, 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 just that you don't use the exact mathematical word of fraction, but you've been unintentionally or unknowingly using or utilizing the application of the word fraction in many of your instances in your day-to-day life. Okay? Now, having seen quite a few examples, let's talk about some more, or let's try to solve some more good examples that we have. Okay? So, for example, you see here, you see a very good triangle which is divided into 4 beautiful colors, one being orange, one being yellow, one is gray, and one is blue. So here, if I ask you what portion of the entire triangle is orange, okay, so then you try to see how many parts is the entire triangle divided into. So you have 4 triangles and one of them is orange. So if anybody asks you what portion of the entire triangle is orange, you tell them that it's one portion divided by in a total of 4 portions. So that's 1 divided by 4, right? So the same way if somebody asks you, hey, what portion of the entire triangle is yellow? So again, you try to see if there is any yellow. No, you only have one yellow color here. So you again tell them that, okay, one portion of the entire wonderful triangle is yellow. Okay, that's wonderful. Now there is something interesting. Okay, your dad has bought a very big chocolate for you in the evening. You know, all of you, you definitely trouble your dad and ask him to get a chocolate. Every day he comes from work. Chocolate is not good for health, but still, I know you like it. So we have a yummy chocolate that has come to your home that evening. Okay, and you need to share this equally among you and your sister. Okay, so now let's see how do we share it equally. So we have a total of 12 bars in the entire chocolate, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we need to now divide these 12 pieces between you and your sister. Okay, so let's again put it down. So you have a total of 12 pieces, which you need to divide it among two of you. So which gets you to 6. So this big chunk of 6 bars of this chocolate is yours, and this is your sister's. So you should always ensure that you give an equal share of pie to your siblings, right? Very good. Now, let's try to see some more, okay, and try to understand how do we or how should we define a fraction, okay? So let's see about let's try to understand what kind of fractions have we learned so far, or what are the various examples that we have learned. One was 1 by 4, okay? Then we have seen 2 by 5, okay? Or we see 3 by 7. So these are the various examples that we tried to see in the previous slides, okay? So now, coming to the definition of a fraction represents a part of a whole or any number of equal parts, right? For example, this is a whole. Now, the slice of pizza that you have picked up here is a part of the whole pizza. The same way, your box of rice, which was to the bottom of the lunch box, is a part of your entire lunch box. So that's the whole. Okay? Now, the same way, you have a bunch of good friends, and one of them has come along with you for a dinner. So you tell your other friends that, you know, he is one of my 3 best friends. So see, that's how simple it is. You have been using the word fraction many a times, and you have been using the logic many a times, just that you did not know what a fraction is all about. Now you all very well understand that a fraction represents a part of a whole or any number of equal parts. Why do we say any number of equal parts? Now when you go out for a dinner with 2 of your best friends, then you go and tell them that, you know, I have come out for a dinner with 2 out of my 3 best friends, right? So the first one is just a part of the whole. The second one is a number of equal parts put together. That's 2 of your friends. So out of 3 best friends. See how easy it is, right? Now, let's try to understand something more about fractions, right? So the components of a fraction, okay? Let us again try to see quickly as to what is a fraction, okay? As we all have understood that a fraction is nothing but a part of a whole, okay? Right, let's try to again understand what is a fraction. A fraction is nothing but a part of a whole, right? So let's try to see some examples before we understand the components of a fraction, right? Now, so let's take some more examples. This is a big circle. Let's divide the circle into 4 parts. So for us, this is a whole, and as we know, the definition of fraction is a part of a whole. So this is one fraction. This is the first pi. So this is 1 by 4. This is another fraction. This is 1 by 4. This is another fraction. This is 1 by 4. This is another part of it, which is 1 by 4. So now, when we need to write a fraction, what we need to do is first write the total number of parts of the whole example that we are taking. So in this case, how did we come to 1 by 4, 1 by 4, 1 by 4, and 1 by 4? Let's take another example and try to understand it much better. Okay, let's take a quick triangle. Okay, and now let's divide the triangle into 2 parts. Right? So the whole triangle is divided into 2 parts. So we need to write the total number of parts first, put a bar on top of it. Now, if you have to pick up one of it, okay, then you say it's one part of 2 total parts in the entire triangle. The same way, let's pick up another circle, okay, and try to divide it into equal number of parts as this. Now, if you try to count, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the entire circle is divided into 6 equal parts, right? So the total parts are 6. Now, which is what you write at the bottom. You put a bar on top of it. Now, if you have to equally share or talk about equal share of this particular circle, then you say the equal share is 1 by 6. Right? Is that clear? So, now as we all have seen, okay, the fraction is always in the form of a number on top of another. Okay? So, for example, we all now know 2 by 3 is a fraction. Okay? We all now know 4 by 5 is a fraction. Right? We all now know 3 by 7 is a fraction. Any number with a number on top of it is defined as a fraction. Okay, so now in this case, this is 2 parts out of 3 total parts. This is 4 parts out of 5 total parts. This is 3 parts out of 7 total parts. See how easy it is. Okay, so now we all understand that there are 2 components that we are talking about here. There are 2 numbers that we are talking about, right? Okay, so the first, there is a number 3 on the top. There is a number 7 at the bottom. So these are the 2 components of the fraction. And the top number is called the numerator. That's the one of the components of a fraction. Okay. Then we have another number which is at the bottom. Okay. Which is nothing but a denominator. Okay. So boys and girls, let's try to see what is a numerator and what is a denominator. So a fraction is always a combination of 2 numbers, one number on top of the other. Okay, so now let's see some good 2-digit numbers as well. Yeah, even you can have a good fraction with a 2-digit. For example, 21 by 44, okay, or 35 by 60, or 23 by 42. Okay, so those are also fractions. Okay, so now in this, we see the number on the top, which is 21, that's a numerator. We have 44, that's a denominator. We then have 35 by 60. The number on the top is 35. Yes, that's the numerator. And the number on the bottom is 60. That's the denominator, right? Then we have 23 by 42. Now 23 is at the top, which is a numerator, and 42 is at the bottom, which is a denominator. Okay? So now, before we get into the next topic of the day, so there are 2 components for a fraction. Okay? The numerator is the number which is on the top. Okay. Then we have the second number which is at the bottom, and it's called denominator, right? So we have so far learned 3 good or new words today. The first one was fraction. The second one is numerator. The third one is denominator. Okay? So now whenever you go home and share a chocolate with your sibling, with your sister or with your brother, you need to always tell them in the way of a fraction. Okay? You go home today, when your dad gets you a good chocolate, tell that, okay, hey sister, 1/2 portion of the chocolate is yours. 1/2 portion of chocolate is mine. Wonderful. Okay? Now let's move on. These are some of the quick examples that we have, okay? And I want each one of you to let me know what are the ones which is a numerator. I'll be circling some of the components here, okay? And I would ask one of you to answer whether that's a numerator or whether that's a denominator, right? Okay? What is this, boys and girls? Okay? Now what is this? This is 4/7. Now 7 is nothing but a denominator. Right? Very good. Now let's take another example. That's 2/3. Okay? What is 2 here? Right. 2 is nothing but a numerator. Okay? Very good. Now let's take one more example. Let's say 3/5. What is 3 here? Okay? 3 is, yes, that's a numerator. Very good. So that's pretty much very clear to each one of you. Now you have understood what's a numerator and what's a denominator, right? Very good. Wonderful. Now let's try to see what is a proper fraction. Okay? We have all seen a fraction. Okay? Any number which is on top of another number, that symbol, okay, is called a fraction. Okay? Or that kind of representation is called a fraction. So we all say 2/3. Okay? We say 2/3. Then we say 3/7. Then we say 4/9. Then we have 5/8. These are all fractions that we have learned today, right? Wonderful. Now, when we say that a number on top of another number is called a fraction, okay, let's talk about an example as 6/2. Okay, or let's talk about a number as, or a fraction as or let's say 6/3, or let's talk about 7/5, or let's say 8/4. Now what difference do you see between the fractions on the top and the fractions at the bottom? Okay. Do you identify a difference there? Yes, wonderful. The fractions on the top, okay, you see the numerators are always less than the denominators. Okay? 2 is less than 3, 3 is less than 7, 4 is less than 9, 5 is less than 8, right? Good. Now at the bottom, you see the fractions there, the numerators are always bigger than the denominator here. 6 is greater than 2, 6 is greater than 3, 7 is greater than 5, and 8 is greater than 4. Wonderful. So, any fraction whose numerator is less than the denominator is called a proper fraction. So, this set of fractions where you see the numerator whose value is less than the denominator is called a proper fraction. Okay? So let's try to understand this slightly more by going through some examples. So you have quite a few fractions here. Okay? Let's try to solve each one of them and try to understand which among these are proper fractions. Okay? As we have seen, when a numerator, okay, is less than the denominator, okay, which means a numerator is less than the denominator, that's a proper fraction. Now let's identify the fractions where the numerator is less than the denominator. Okay? The first one, 4/9, right? 4 is less than 9, which means the numerator is less than the denominator. Okay? So that's the proper fraction. Now 3/2, okay? 3 is the numerator, 2 is the denominator, and 3 is greater than 2. So this is not a proper fraction. 2/7, 2 is a numerator, 7 is a denominator, and 2 is less than 7. So the numerator is less than the denominator. Wonderful. So this is also a proper fraction. We then have 4 by 1. 4 is the numerator, 1 is the denominator, and 4 is greater than 1. Because the numerator is greater than the denominator, this is not a proper fraction. We then have 3 by 5. 3 is the numerator, 5 is the denominator, and 3 is less than 5. So this is a proper fraction. We then also have 5 by 4. Okay. Now 5 is the numerator, 4 is the denominator, 5 is greater than 4, which means the numerator is greater than the denominator. This is not also a proper fraction. Okay. Wonderful. Great. So let's move on and try to understand what have we learned today. Okay. In the class today, we have learned 3 good things or 3 new things. The first is we have learned what a fraction is. Okay. What is a fraction? A fraction is a part of a whole. Okay. We then have also understood what are the components of the fraction. Okay. So the components of a fraction are numerator and the denominator. And we have then also tried to understand what is a proper fraction. Okay. A proper fraction is a fraction where the numerator is less than the denominator. Okay. Before we end the class, let's try to quickly see the summary of what we have learned today. We have learned what a fraction is. A fraction is nothing but a part of a whole. Okay. A part of a whole. Wonderful. Please note it down in your books. Right. We then have understood the components of a fraction. The components of a fraction are a numerator and a denominator. Wonderful. Okay. You need to ensure that you understand these words very, very familiar, because these are going to be very much useful for your classes down the line. We then have proper fractions. A proper fraction is a fraction where your numerator is less than the denominator. That is a fraction which is a proper fraction. Wonderful. Quick examples. A fraction 1 by 4 is a fraction. Components of a fraction. When you talk about a fraction 2 by 3, 2 is the numerator and 3 is the denominator. Let's talk about a proper fraction 4 by 5. Because in a proper fraction, a numerator has to be less than the denominator. 4 by 5, where 4 is the numerator, 5 is the denominator, and 4 is less than 5, that's a proper fraction. Very good. Okay? All right. Thank you very much, boys and girls. That was your session on fractions today. Have fun today evening. Have chocolates, have pizza, have a yummy lunchbox today. Have chat along with your group of friends and choose the best friend among them. Okay? Have fun. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much.